Hello students, in today's class we are going to see Geography NCERT class 9th first chapter, India, Size and Location. This chapter is a very small chapter which covers 4 important topics. They are India's location, its size, India and the world and its neighbors. So in the introduction, we'll see how India is located and it is having a remarkable progress in various fields. So as they have explained in the slide, we could see that India is one of the most ancient civilizations of the world. So India as a country is contributing to various important factors of a world. That is, India is progressing day by day in the field of agriculture, industry, technology, and India as a country is contributing to the overall economic development of the globe. Also, to note, India has contributed significantly to the making of world history. So from this we could understand how India plays a vital role in improving the progress of the world. So it is always important to know about the location of a country. So specifically talking about India, it is very vast in nature, which means geographically when we look at India, it is a vast country. So when we measure those location from a latitudinal and a longitudinal basis, these are the numerical statistics that they have given to us. That is, India's location lies entirely in the northern hemisphere. Students, we have to note here that it lies entirely in the northern hemisphere. So, and also it extends its latitudes between 8 degree into 4 north and 37 degree into 6 north, and longitudinal such that 68 and 97. As we all know that the Tropic of Cancer divides the country, which is responsible to divide the country into 2 equal parts. So when we look at the other sides, that is southeast and southwest of the country, we could always see that Andaman and Nicobar Islands and Lakshadweep Islands and Bay of Bengal and Arabian Sea respectively. So imagine, dear students, when we take a India map, so for example, if I am taking an outline map, for sure, as a student, I will know where Bay of Bengal is located, where Andaman Nicobar Islands is located, because it's been from our school time we are reading this, right? So we always remember Andaman Nicobar Islands and Lakshadweep Islands and Bay of Bengal and Arabian Sea respectively. So when we look at this, so now in the previous slides we saw how India is located. Okay, so we saw from a single point of view, and now we are shifting towards India in the world. Okay, its size. Now we are going to look at its size. So India has an area of 3.28 million square kilometer. It means as a whole, when we take into a world perspective, India accounts for about 2.4% of the world. So India occupies the 7th largest country of the world in terms of size. In terms of geographical measure, India accounts to 7th largest country of the world. So when we look about the land boundary of India, it covers to 15,200 kilometers. That is the total length of the mainland, which includes all the islands that we saw in the previous slide. Also, it has 2 seas, namely Arabian Sea on the west and Bay of Bengal on the eastern side. So now we are going to see longitudinal and latitudinal extent. So in the previous slide, we saw about the islands and the seas present in India in terms of geographical context. Now we are going to look at the latitudinal and longitudinal extent of India. So the latitudinal and longitudinal extent is to about 30 degree, which means the eastern and western part of the country appears to be smaller when we compare to the north and south extent. So specifically they have given an example. From Gujarat to Arunachal Pradesh, there is always a time lag. So in terms of geographical measure or distance, always there is a time lag, dear students. So very importantly, to note that the standard meridian of India, which passes through Mizrapur and Uttar Pradesh, is taken as a standard time for the whole country. So India has different states, right? So if it is, for example, if it is 5:30 now in Delhi, the time would lag for 2 or 3 minutes. Okay, so but then we all follow the Indian standard meridian of India. Right? Okay. So the latitudinal extent also has its influence. So when you look at this map, they have given the latitudinal and the longitudinal extent, and the Arabian Sea and the Bay of Bengal and all the islands that we saw in the previous slides are given in this map. Okay, students, now we are going to see India from a world level perspective. So when we look at the Indian landmass, it has a central location. So between directions, that is between the East and West Asia. So when you look at the world map, you could see, you can easily identify India through its shape, right? So please imagine like that. India has a greater landmass. So from a central location, it has a greater landmass. So it is southward. So the extension of India is towards the south side. So the trans-Indian ocean routes which connect the countries. So when we look at the history, when we trace back to the history, the Indian Ocean routes will connect the countries of Europe. That is Europe in the west and the countries of East Asia. So which means India is providing a connectivity through its ocean or the seas present. So to note that no such country except for India has such a coastline, because India occupies its major position from a world level perspective. So that is why we justify that Indian Ocean, which means that India has it is occupying a prominent position in the world, which means not only India occupies a prominent position from a country level perspective, also from a world level perspective. So when you look at this graph, you could see how the areas are distributed between countries. So as we saw in the previous slide, the total landmass accounts to about 3.28 million square kilometers. So India accounts to this thing they have given a graph like this, right? So 7 largest countries of the world. So India is occupying such a position over here. Okay. So India is a central point. So because it helps in transportation, it helps in trade and commerce, etc. So when we look at the past, India has a larger contact through the sea routes and land routes. So the various passes across the mountains in the north have provided passages to the ancient travelers. So when oceans were restricted for a longer period of time, when people were not allowed to travel into the seas, people used to travel in the land areas, which means the ancient travelers, they themselves has created a path like that. So these routes has also contributed to exchange ideas and commodities. See students, so when we travel from one place to another, we gain a lot of experience out of it. Like we used to share what is our own culture, right? So same as like that, when ancient people, when they traveled from one part of the country to other part of the country, these routes, these sea routes and land routes provided a vital space for the people to communicate what they are actually practicing. Also, to note, the ideas of Upanishads and the Ramayana and stories of all Panchatantra and the Indian numerical and the decimal system could reach many parts of the world. So this is how the stories of our own country, right? it went across the world, it spread across the world. Imagine, without technology we cannot even pass a single message today from one end to other end. But then, dating back to few years, India has deliberately shared many things related to Upanishads, Ramayana and the stories through the routes. So also the species, muslin and other merchandise were taken from India to different countries. So this is how India has provided a central point to contact. That is, point of contact is only from India. So every country has been connected and they started exchanging ideas, species and all the religious practices that they have followed. So now we saw about India, how India is playing a vital role in connecting all the other parts of the world. Now let's look at India's neighbors. Who are our neighbors? So as we all know that India occupies an important position in the South Asia. So according to the recent update, India has 29 states and 7 union territories. So the boundaries of India is shared with Pakistan, Afghanistan, China, Nepal, Bhutan, Myanmar and Bangladesh. So they are the neighbors, along with the 7 union territories. Within India, these countries are our own neighbors. Also, one second, yes, students. Yes. Also, the southern neighbors include 2 islands, namely Sri Lanka and Maldives. So Sri Lanka is separated from India by a narrow channel of sea by the Palk Strait and Gulf of Mannar. So when we look at this lesson, we have to remember some important names which is related to islands and seas and oceans. So to look at Sri Lanka, it is separated from India by a narrow channel of sea, which means it is accounting to the south side of the Lakshadweep Islands. So when you look at this map, we could see the Arabian Sea is found here in the Lakshadweep and the Maldives, and Sri Lanka is separated through a channel, through a narrow channel, as we saw on the previous slide. So also they have given how India has been separated by its international boundaries and strait boundaries. So Afghanistan, Pakistan, China, Nepal, Bhutan and Bangladesh are the neighboring countries of India. So that is all, dear students. In this lesson, we have clearly explained how India is geographically measured from a country's perspective and a world's level perspective. I hope you all are clear with this. Thank you.